Hi, this is Dr. Kathleen Hallinan, and we are continuing our weight loss vlog. I'm going to go over a podcast and book that I listened to, which were fascinating, wonderfully done. This was the Lewis Howes School of Greatness podcast, and he interviewed Shawn Stevenson, the author of the book Eat Smarter. What a great book. He covered many things in the interview. I strongly recommend you check it out. I will put a link to it in the bottom of the notes. And I picked just 3 things to cover from his book, one of which I've already covered, the NIH study on unprocessed and processed foods. I just picked 3 things. I highly recommend you listen to the interview and check out his book. I'm going to say that it's been so impressive to see a few people so far this year take advantage of 2020, the disaster that it has been, and use it as an opportunity to make themselves better. I'm going to say if you can, even if you've been disheartened, even if you've been struggling, I see that a lot of people have allowed the 2020 stressors to overcome their ability to try to pull themselves up, make themselves better, and they've come in and their numbers have been bad because they're stressed. I'm going to encourage you, use this time. If anything, today and this year, everything's been put off, shut down, canceled. A lot of people have some extra time. Take the extra time of 2020 to make yourself better, to make yourself stronger. Don't come out of 2020 and look at yourself and go, wow, I missed that opportunity. Come out of 2020 and be better. Make yourself more fit. Take advantage of the time. Go plan your meals. Make new daily strategies. Change your diet for the better each day. Take 20 minutes and do some exercise, do some core strengthening. There's a great YouTuber, her name is Chloe Ting, and she has some great workout videos that you can just do at home, so you don't have to go out. You can just do it in the comfort of your own living room. You don't need any equipment, and she's very cute and energetic. I'm just encouraging everybody to start to take advantage of this last part of 2020 and into 2021, where we know it's going to be a little bit before things are going to be all opened up again. But before you know it, we'll be back to kind of life as normal after the vaccine. Certainly we hope that that will be the case. And once life is back to normal, the last thing you want to do is look back and think, wow, I could have used that time better. So use the time now. Make yourself better. And let me go through a few things with you from his book that I thought were great. Number 1 was the study from NIH that was done looking at the difference between unprocessed and processed foods. I did another video on this topic, but again, he goes over it in his book. Very fascinating. They took a group of people, randomized them, and in one group gave them unprocessed food, and in the other group gave them completely processed food, like McDonald's processed food. The food itself was the same in terms of calorie and macronutrient value. But the group that got the unprocessed food did not eat as much and their weight went down. They were presented with the same amount of food, but just the fact that it was not processed caused them to eat less. So if there's one thing you can change in your day, look at everything one meal at a time. And just look at this meal. Is this meal mostly unprocessed? What can I get rid of that's processed and maybe even substitute in its place process for unprocessed food? So lean chicken, turkey, fish, vegetables, fruits, just in their whole state, not messed around with. See what you can do with that. The second thing is the whole concept of intermittent fasting. The other name that it goes by sometimes is time-restricted feeding or time-restricted eating. There are a lot of people looking into this now where on a set number of calorie intake, for that same amount, if you compress the time that you take in those calories into a maybe 10-hour window in your day, those people do better in terms of their metabolic factors, in terms of their weight, in terms of their waist circumference. As a matter of fact, they studied this also in the Journal of Cell Metabolism. They took a cohort and restricted their eating into a window of time per day, and their body mass index improved, their waist circumference improved, hemoglobin A1Cs and LDL numbers got better because these were people with metabolic syndrome. So if you can look into just that simple change also, changing the number of calories and the amount you eat and compressing it into a window, say 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., or even a little bit longer, but trying to keep a good 14-hour window free of any intake, you may find that your metabolism starts to change. Arguably, you can't eat a large amount of calories when you come out of the fast because that will work against what you're trying to do. But look into intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating, both very good strategies to add to your strategies. And then the third very interesting thing is the phenomenon of brown fat or brown adipose tissue. So there's white fat, which is your energy storage cells. And white fat is not just a storage cell. It is an active organ in your body. It secretes hormones. It secretes what we call cytokines, which in current situation with people getting infected increases their likelihood of having overwhelming inflammation in the blood vessels and having a lot of clots with coronavirus. So we're certainly aware of that link between adipose or fat cells and risk of succumbing to infection. So brown adipose tissue is completely a different phenomenon. Brown adipose tissue has a lot of mitochondria, which are, if you can remember from your high school biology, they're the energy storehouse or energy storage place in the cell. Brown adipose tissue has a lot more mitochondria, and we see brown adipose tissue in infants and also more in animals that have to be able to make their own body heat in the wintertime. Human adults have brown adipose tissue in the supraclavicular area, so above your clavicle, and down around the sides of your spine. And it's also scattered among the cells in the rest of your body, but just in very small amounts. So these researchers did a study. They wanted to see, we know caffeine increases weight loss by a little bit. They wanted to see if both the mechanism, both in vitro, so in a petri dish, as well as in vivo, meaning in a human being itself, could be discerned. And so they had stem cells, and they exposed these stem cells to a physiologic dose of caffeine. So in other words, they didn't drown them in caffeine. They gave these cells about the amount of caffeine that you could expect might match if you were to take it in a real life scenario. And the fat cells that had the tendency to turn into brown fat, called beige fat, actually did. They upregulated the mitochondria production, and they increased their oxygen utilization, meaning the metabolic rate went up. And so in a petri dish, you can show that caffeine causes fat cells to kind of transition out of this beige or kind of might want to be brown fat into brown fat cells to burn energy. And then they also did a very interesting study in humans where they gave them a cup of coffee, and the control group was a group of people who had a cup of water, and then they checked the heat around their supraclavicular region, and it went up in the group that got the caffeine, so in the coffee. So it's fascinating that this is a plant component, obviously found in coffees and teas, that will change the way your beige fat transitions to brown fat and upregulates the mitochondria activity that is what you use to make energy or burn your own energy for heat. So these are just some things that were in his book that we know, but he puts them together in such a wonderful way. I strongly recommend you check out the interview, check out his book, and see what you can do. And this does not mean, though, that have a cup of foo-foo coffee with your donut. That is not at all what I'm advocating. This is a cup of black coffee, and at most you add maybe a tablespoon of milk or half and half, and maybe a teaspoon of sugar. Like, if you need cream and sugar with your coffee, a little bit. That doesn't mean drown it in, like, Starbucks creamer and add 3 teaspoons of sugar and have it with your donut. That is not how coffee is going to cause you to upregulate any metabolic pathway. You want to have, if you're going to add this to your day as a strategy, a cup of black tea or a cup of green tea or a cup of black coffee, and maybe you can add just a little bit of something if you need to in terms of creamer, but only a little bit, and maybe half a teaspoonful of sugar, just a little bit. You're not trying to change your coffee into a foo-foo drink, as I call them. So these are just some ideas, some strategies you can add to your daily routine, but take this time of 2020 to change your strategies, change the daily things, because it is the daily behavior that you do to every day that's going to make the long-term habits. So I hope this has been helpful. Please share this with anybody who you might find that might find this interesting. Click subscribe, click share, and we appreciate all your hard work. You guys are doing great. People that I see every day are doing great. So keep up the good work. Thank you.